GearNetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
From the Gear Network studios in Rochester, New York, this is the Listen In Podcast with your hosts, John Cimino and Brennan Durrell. And now, here's John.
Here I am, ladies and gentlemen, and here you all are. Welcome once again to the Listen In Podcast. I apologize if I sound a little bit short or blunt or raspy. My allergies, Brandon, they are flaring, as the Jerky Boys would say, like a pack of hemorrhoids. But how's it going here? John Cimino here, Brandon Durrell there. If you are watching on the JC Money Show Patreon page, this is what we look like, and fuck you. But anywho, Brandon, you can unmute yourself now, you know. And
I've been unmuted.
Oh, have you? All right.
Yeah,
Well, welcome to the podcast, everybody. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for the downloads. We appreciate the downloads, and of course, that's the easiest way to support us. Mention the Patreon page, patreon.com/TJCMS podcast, specifically related to the JC Money Show, my standalone podcast, but any podcast that I'm on, this one, that one, Trust the Podcast, Better Live Than Dead, any podcast that I am on, it goes there commercial free, and it starts at just $3 a month. For $5 a month, you can get tier 2, which has friggin' everything, including the video cast of these episodes and some
and
standalone.
a hand job from the host.
No.
No?
You will not get a hand job from the host. No, I apologize. Sorry to let you down. Hold on. There's actually a sound for that I have here. Hold on. Oh, I don't know if it worked or not, but anywho, these freaking soundboards here. Wait, what is production telling me here? Try it again. There it is. Handos for going on the Patreon page, but you might get studio naming rights for an episode. Never know. But on today's show, this year in review, man, we are just here. We missed last week on the account of Christmas. Let us be the last to say Merry Christmas and the first to say Happy New Year. Year in review, football season for me, Brandon. I hate football forever now. I know right now, as of press recording, the New York Football Jets, they're about to take the field in Cleveland against the Browns, and Joe Flacco, the elite one himself, who's honestly kicking some freaking ass. Can't be upset about that. Good for him.
I'm a big fan of what he's doing in Cleveland.
I like it. I feel
fun story.
I feel bad that the Jets didn't take him up. It came out this week that he apparently reached out to the Jets after Aaron Rodgers went down, and the Jets were like, no, thank you. We're going to stick with what we got, which is, now seeing, of course, benefit of hindsight, how he's playing now. Granted, the offensive line there in Cleveland's better, but he's got a bit of a quicker release than certainly Wilson and Boyle did. But either way, the Jets, since last podcast, the Jets are out of the playoff picture. They are in sole possession of the longest playoff drought in sports. Stop me if you heard this before, Brandon, but I hate football.
Oh, I had noticed.
Indeed.
When all those texts you send on Sunday when I say, hey, did you see this? And you're like, no, I'm not watching. I hate football. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
A little spoiler alert. I actually am watching when you send those text messages, but I can't, like, sometimes it's been unbearable sometimes watching this Jets game, because this team is better than they're playing or they played, and it was just, I don't really know where to put the blame on. I don't know if I put the blame on ownership. I don't know if I put the blame on coaching. I don't know if I put the blame on the GM. I'm not sure who came up with the whole ideology of building around one person and not having a contingency plan.
Well, I mean, to be honest, like that's really the only way you're going to get it anyways. Like so they were trying to make a Super Bowl run. They're not trying to build a long-term winner. They built around one guy, kind of like the Bucs did with Tom Brady. They already had a good defense in Tampa. And so their offense was suspect. I mean, it was when Jameis was throwing, as many touchdowns as he was picks. And they were basically a 500 team. So they were trying to do the same thing the Bucks did. The difference between what happened with the Bucks and the Jets is that Tom Brady made it through the whole season without any issue, whereas Rodgers didn't. And if Rodgers had, it would have been a much different season.
Of course,
they would have been a much better team. They would probably be in a playoff position right now. Like, it would have been a much different season. And to have that happen is such a devastating blow. You can't prepare for that. And legit, you spend your entire offseason, tailoring the roster to be with Aaron Rodgers, guys that know Aaron Rodgers, guys that have played with Aaron Rodgers, maybe not guys who are, first on everybody's list to sign. Not everyone was clamoring to get Alan Lazard or, Randall Cobb, or
I don't think either of them will be back next year.
No, I don't think well, Lazard will be because he's under contract, unless you're going to eat his salary.
Yeah, maybe.
Signed him to a 3-year deal.
All right, so maybe he might be back.
He's there. Randall Cobb, I could see him retiring.
Yeah. He caught his first touchdown a couple of weeks ago, which was cool to see, and it was nice to have him, but it would have, it just as a Jets fan, man, it was rough. It was rough. We had that good stretch where we were 4-3 heading into the Chargers game, and then we just got blown out by the Chargers, and then which shouldn't have happened. Honestly, that shouldn't have happened. There were some losses early on too. The loss to the Patriots shouldn't have happened, but it did. If we would have squeaked by Kansas City, the whole trajectory, even with the string of the 5 losses to the Chargers, Raiders, Bills, Dolphins, Falcons. Well, Falcons, we shouldn't have freaking lost that goddamn game either.
Us either.
But
we had a 2-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter and we lost by a point. So
I just feel like this team is they lose on dumb, very dumb situations like penalties or just poor play offensive line. That's been the whole story for me. Is the offensive line has just been absolute horseshit. With the injuries and all that.
It's the engine that drives, the rest of the offense. If it can't do it, you can't do it. If that doesn't go, then nothing's going to go.
Of course.
If your quarterback's not getting time, it doesn't matter how good they are. It's a tough deficiency to cover. Aaron Rodgers would have struggled a lot with that line, and I can see him motherfucking a lot of people.
Something I've been doing in recent days.
Yeah. So it wouldn't have been perfect if Rodgers was there, but would have been better because
much better,
they did tailor this team around one guy. You build a whole offseason plan around that guy. You know what that guy knows. You trust what that guy can do. And then you go into, having to use Zach Wilson, who you don't know what you have in him. He is a bit of a wild card. Some games he looks like, hey, this guy can really play the position. Right. And then there's other games you're like, how did he even get into the stadium?
Right. Yes.
Who let this kid in?
Exactly.
It's tough. And
it's
tough for him, and I feel bad for him. Because
I feel horrible for the kid. I really do, because I never felt like he was ever set up. And I said this a couple weeks back when we were talking about it too. I felt the same for Sam Darnold when he was with the Jets. That I don't feel like he was set up for success at all.
No.
in any system that they've been a part of. So no. I feel bad for him there. That said, Ryan made a very interesting point when we were talking about the Jets in the Around the NFL segment on Trust the Podcast this week. And he mentioned the difference between release times for aging quarterbacks. Like, had the Jets gotten a Joe Flacco or had gone out and gotten a veteran journeyman that a little earlier on that may have been looking for work or whatever. that could have been the difference. That, maybe the quicker release. That Zach Wilson's biggest problem is he was just holding the ball too long, trying to make a play, sticking in the pocket, holding the ball too long, and then extending the play too late, and then throwing an interception or fumbling or something. Whereas if you had a Joe Flacco, take the step back. He at least knows well enough to. I say this having watched Joe Flacco play for the Jets last year and him not doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So
like I don't buy that at all. I think that's a very big assumption and kind of a reach to say that, oh, well, it's because Zach Wilson doesn't throw it fast enough. It's like, yeah, I don't think so. Like, you can get rid of the ball as fast as possible. And there's still going to be times where that line gives up, before you even finish your drop, there's somebody in your lap. So I don't buy that Joe Flacco would have came in. I think Joe Flacco came into a good situation. This is a good situation for Joe Flacco.
Yes.
Cleveland Browns are a good team. Nobody's really talking about them. Like, everyone's talking about Kansas City and their struggles.
They could be number one.
I mean,
with some help, obviously, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that this team that went, thanks to Facebook memories, reminding me with the countdown, when they went 0-16 in 2018 or 2019, one of those 2 years. They had the worst stretch of football, arguably in the history of football. Yeah. During that time, they were, I think, 2-32. And yet here we are talking about. So this gives me hope as a Jets fan that if they could turn it around, certainly the Jets can at some point.
Stefanski's a good coach. He, again, like, they didn't go out and get a bunch of flashy wide receivers. They got Amari Cooper, who, had a cup of coffee in LA or Vegas or whatever you want to call them. They were Oakland at the time when he was there. And then he got traded to Dallas.
They haven't been LA in 20 years.
Yeah.
The Raiders.
Listen, they've moved so many damn times.
That's
They're
true.
like the Jeffersons or something.
Moving on up.
Yeah, they're moving on up, man. They went from LA to Oakland, which was a down move, and then they went up to Vegas. So, it's an upgrade to go to Vegas.
Yeah.
But Cleveland, they got a head coach and they figured out that, like, hey, Baker Mayfield doesn't quite fit what I want to do. And so they went and got Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, has to obviously sit through a suspension. And people expected that he was just going to jump back on the field after being off for almost 2.5 years, that he was just going to jump back on the field and be Deshaun Watson of old.
Right.
Especially with a new team. It's not going to happen. There's going to be time to ramp up. He started off this season a little slow. But he started to pick it up, and then he got injured. That comeback against the Ravens, he had a fourth quarter comeback. They were down 17 in that fourth quarter, and they won that game in Baltimore. To basically what could have been possibly a season saver. And then he is injured in that game, and he injured his shoulder, and he was done for the season. So then they went to what they had. They had PJ Walker there. They had Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who is their rookie backup. It wasn't giving them what they wanted, but they were still grinding out games. Like, they were still able to do it because that defense is so strong, especially up front. Like Myles Garrett, Darius Smith, those guys are monsters. Like, they're getting after the quarterback. And if you can do that and you can hold teams to, lower points, they got a good offensive line. Like, they have all the keys. They were missing that piece of a quarterback who can, stabilize the whole thing. And Joe Flacco is a good stabilizer.
Right.
He may not be a guy that's going to go out and, throw for 365 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and run the show, but he is going to do things that is going to help you win. And if you're in a close game, he's going to find a way because he's been there. He's been in these situations.
Yeah.
He's been in these times where, like,
he's elite,
okay,
man.
like we need to score here. Like, we need to score. We need to move the change, whatever we need to do. He's going to do it. And that's the kind of guy they have. And the rest of the team's kind of rallied. I mean, Amari Cooper had probably the best game of his career last game. He had 11 receptions for 265 and 2 touchdowns.
Mhm.
Like that's a big game from a wide receiver. And he just said, I don't know, man. It just clicks. And when I say that, he's out tonight versus the Jets with a heel injury. So Joe Flacco's best target is not in the game tonight.
They're still up 7-0 right now, though. So
that's good. That's good for them.
Well, good thing. Whatever. I hate
Jerome
football.
Ford, 7-yard pass from Joe Flacco.
I posted actually last Sunday after the game, or no, before the Jets game. I said, regardless of the result, the Jets are out of it. I hate football for the rest of the season. So I'm not even doing the damn posts now. It's done. Speaking of sports, speaking of football, let's stay in the AFC East really quickly. I want to talk about the Buffalo Bills, whose fortune tremendously changed over the course of the past month. A month ago, they were like, I think, a 14% shot of making the playoffs. And now they control their destiny. Talk about how, again, I go back to the Allah Akbar thing. Like that might have been the thing that might have lit a fire on their ass. Although they did squeak by the Chargers, they didn't play up to their par, I feel, against the Chargers this week.
The Chargers played hard though.
They did.
They had a new coach. They got a guy who has fired them up. Those guys are dangerous. Teams that are losing and they're in a mired streak and they're getting kind of, the laughing stock, those guys really come out with a fire, especially if they're playing a top-notch team. I'm watching it happen right now. The Boston Celtics are playing against the Detroit Pistons today. They decided to give Jaylen Brown the day off. Yeah. Because, the Pistons have lost 27 in a row. It's about to go to halftime and the Pistons are up 21.
Oh, wow.
In Boston.
Wow.
In Boston.
All right.
It was a 3-point game at the end of the first quarter, and they've outscored Boston 34-16 in the second quarter.
Well, look at that.
So those teams are dangerous. Those are teams you don't want to face because they have nothing to lose and they go out there and they play like they have nothing to lose.
Sure.
Buffalo had everything riding on that game. Like, you need to win. Like, they needed to win out. They knew they had to win out. So, the pressure is in their court.
Sure.
And the Chargers, they're a talented roster. They got a quarterback who's playing as the backup, and he wants to, make a name for himself.
Easton Stick was his name.
Yeah. He's going to be looking for a job. He's auditioning right now. So a lot of these guys are auditioning. And they got a coach who's like, hey, maybe I can sneak in and get this job if we do something,
Perhaps,
so They came out and played hard. I mean,
kudos
that Buffalo played terrible. They didn't play great, like their best game, but they definitely
had they lost that game though, that we would be having a very different conversation. But
it would have been.
But having
tough.
won that game, sports pundits are now again back on the. What is the ceiling for the Buffalo Bills here and all of that. Going to play a little clip here from one of my favorite former New York Jets, Mr. Can't Wait, Bart Scott here. Listen to him, what he, his analysis on what Josh Allen's ceiling is. And then after that, we'll play Agree, Disagree. Take a listen.
When I see him, I don't see Tom Brady. I see, Brett Favre because he's reckless with the ball. And I think, he still has a little bit of evolving to do because, in this league, windows open and they close. And we're seeing the closing of this window. They have to try and get it done this year in a weaker division. He can go out and be a guy like Phillip Rivers when you think about a guy that put up gaudy numbers for a long time but never won anything. Because understand the environment in which Josh Allen finds himself in. He's in Buffalo. And this is not a place where free agents are beating down the door. So, I understand.
Free agents go to play with guys like that.
I understand that, but for how long when you have other options? If you look at what Lamar Jackson is doing this year, right? Lamar Jackson was reckless with his body because he would go out and he put himself in harm's way. Like, I get nervous sometimes when I see Josh Allen. I'm also watching Cam Newton. It was a supernova. It was beautiful. It was magnificent to watch, but it ended short. And Sean McDermott had a front row seat to that because he still, you can't let a guy be himself. You notice Lamar Jackson, he scrambles to throw now. And he only runs to be special when he has to be. Josh Allen has to understand that he has the team's, future in his hands, and his health is vital right? I just worry about him taking these big hits when he goes Josh Allen mode and starts to say, I'm going to be the best athlete out here and running guys over.
But I will say this, though. If you watch, since they fired their OC and Joe Brady, the way they play offense is different.
But they're running the ball.
Right. They're using James Cook.
They're realizing James
Cook is actually a pretty good running back.
But when things go bad, guys like that always revert to who they are. And by nature, he's a risk taker.
Okay,
But he's also a supernova at quarterback.
Yes, and supernovas are beautiful, but they don't last long. Just ask Cam Newton, MVP of the league.
Thoughts?
Oh, my God. So I just want to go, and I definitely think that at the later stages of Bart's life, he definitely might want to look into donating his brain to science, because I definitely think there's some CTE there. The fact that he's like out here saying, hey, Lamar runs now just to pass. Lamar has run for more than like 400 yards. I think almost 400 yards more than Josh Allen has this season.
He had a hell of a freaking run in the last game against, I don't remember who the Ravens were playing, but he had a hell of a run there.
He's got 786 yards rushing this season with 5 touchdowns. But when we look at it.
When we look at what?
Oh, you know what's happening?
What's going on?
I thought you were playing something. Something automatically started playing on my.
No.
So I thought you were playing something, so I stopped.
No.
So Lamar Jackson, stand him next to Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even close as far as size. Like there's something to be said. Yeah, there's something to be said when you got a guy who's 6'5", 237 pounds to a guy who's 270. He's got 20 pounds on the guy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're worried about Lamar Jackson, that's fine. But Josh Allen has 413 yards rushing this year. That's almost half of what Lamar has.
Yeah.
So when he says something like, oh, well, he's running to pass now. No, he's not. He's still Lamar Jackson. He's still one of the most dynamic playmakers in the game. He's hard to tackle. He can make moves, get out of the pocket, take off downfield. To say that Josh Allen is just, he's reckless and he's doing this, I just don't understand. And I don't think these guys have actually watched him play like for full games. Like to say,
well, probably not, because Bart Scott still thinks that free agents don't want to go to Buffalo. And Damian Woody over there was like, free agents go to play with people like Josh Allen.
And then he goes, well, he's a supernova. He's for how long? And to compare him to Cam Newton is just absolutely asinine. Cam Newton was good for about 2 seasons, and he was good because he was big and he could run. And most people were so geared up on him running that opened up passing lanes for him. Josh is a good passer and he can run. So he's an even more of a wild card, and he is way less reckless than Cam Newton, and he's in better shape than Cam Newton is.
Absolutely.
And he's a better quarterback than Cam Newton ever was. Cam Newton was great. He had a small window
MVP.
where he was great.
He was MVP and he led to him Super Bowl. So you can't. Yeah. I don't knock Cam Newton at all.
I don't
Josh
either,
Allen is a much different quarterback. He is.
Yeah.
That dude's. I mean, and when I hate to sound like a Bills homer here.
And for how long? How long? What do you mean how long?
Yeah, I think what he might mean there is, how long before the legs start to deteriorate, how long before he has to, but I've always thought
he could still be a pocket passer. His last 3 seasons, 37 touchdown passes, 36 touchdown passes, 35. He's down this year, but that's attributed to the offense and the way the offense started earlier in the year. He's also got more rushing touchdowns than he's ever had either. And a lot of these are, from close inside the 5, inside the 10.
Only player, Brandon, in NFL history, only player to have recorded 40 touchdowns in 4 straight seasons. I want to say that. Ryan, if you're listening, keep me honest here. I know you mentioned it on Trust the Podcast, but I mean, the NFL is 100 years old, dude.
Right.
And if you're the only person in the NFL to have in NFL history to have a stat like that, you kind of you kind of earn the right to tell the Bart Scotts of the world there, to shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I mean that whole take he had, it was just like he just kept digging the hole deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And then like Marcus Spears would and I interrupt him and be like,
"Oh no, that was Damian Woody."
Oh, that's Damian Woody.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell. It was
Marcus
all
Spears.
I saw was the side of his face.
Marcus Spears probably would have actually said "shut the fuck up" on air to him.
Yeah, because I mean that was just a bad.
Swagoo
take.
don't play that shit.
That was a really bad take.
Yes, yes, I heard that,
there is no decline in Allen. Like the offense was kind of rough to start the season.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lot of turbulence. There was a lot of turbulence there. I mean,
that's why they fired
wasn't doing. Yeah, exactly. And I know it seemed weird at first, but again, as he's said before, trust the process, right?
I'll say, on top of that, I've watched a lot of games and I've seen guys like Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis drop a lot of passes this year.
Oh yeah,
a lot of drops.
Diggs actually, we were talking about too earlier this week. He's been less and less involved as each of these games have gone on. And granted, they shifted their play calling to start dipping it more to the running backs and getting the tight ends involved. And I don't know. I just saw your reaction there, and I got to turn around to see what was going on in the
Jets
TV there.
Thing. So you guys are tied, but then they just had 3rd and 12 at the 50, and Njoku just got hit with a 43-yard pass down to the 7, so it's 1st and goal Browns.
Yeah, well,
it's Joe Flacco, man. He's 5 of 7 for 120 and a touchdown.
Goddamn.
But then
Jets.
Trevor Simeon's 2 and 2 for 43 yards and a touchdown. So
gunslinger battle, Brandon.
Yeah, it's gonna see a
friggin' shootout here. Got the finger guns on the finger guns note there. We're gonna take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, Brandon, I want to talk about Jaire Alexander real quick. What the hell happened with why the Packers? I don't know. I don't understand that story. I need your help with that one, and then I kind of want to get your Dodgers take too, because I know how much you love them. This is the Listen In podcast here on the Gear Radio Network. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. This is Uptown Funk Empire. You can find that on I found this, Brandon, on my Apple radio station. Apparently, I was in some kind of mood there to get the funkadelic stuff going there, but you can get that
touchdown Browns.
Touchdown Browns. There it is. Look at that.
Rushing touchdown, 7 yards.
I want everybody to feel that the drive was extended through that commercial break. Like it was a tough battle from the point where they got that 1st and goal and we went to commercial break. It was a nice, tough defensive stand. Breaking down the wall here. If you're on Patreon, commercial free, we just flowed it right through, and it was super quick. All right, Brandon, talk to me about what the hell happened with the Green Bay Packers here. I saw something about Jaire Alexander, my boy. Apparently, he walked out to the coin flip. He was not a captain, and then and then they did the coin flip, and he said, defense getting the ball or something like that. I don't know. I'm not sure. Help me understand what the hell happened. What led to Jaire Alexander being suspended by the Packers when they're still technically alive?
They are alive. They win out. They have like a 97% chance of making the playoffs.
Okay. So what the hell? Why?
So I'll tell you why. Because Matt LaFleur has been soft and doesn't hold people accountable. And that side of the ball is very frustrated. Week in and week out, they're being put in a position where they're getting roasted. I watch a lot of like plays where I see guys on 3rd and 10, 3rd and 9, lining up 12 yards off the line of scrimmage.
Right.
And then as soon as the ball snapped, they backpedal. So it's even further. So I don't know what's going on with alignment. Perfect microcosm to what is wrong with this defense. And it starts at the top. Guys are communicated what the play is, where the positioning goes, where you're supposed to line up. I watched on a 3rd and 2, they had a lot. The offensive line here had a tackle here, an end here, and an outside linebacker. There were
Okay.
3 linemen completely uncovered
All right.
by a defender. So the guy just basically just handed the ball off and he walked right through that hole and got 14 yards.
Okay.
I've never seen such a bad lineup. So, like, this is the kind of shit that's been going on all season. And every week, the media has been getting louder and louder, asking,
Turnover.
What's your opinion of, the offense and the
Jets just turned the ball over.
I mean,
sexy Salah with his beard over there is like, huh? Freaking like, oh, goddamn Jets. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, like, if you look at it, like, they've been asking week after week, is it time to make a change at defensive coordinator? This is a defense that has been ranked near the bottom of the league for the last 3 years. You have 7 first-round draft picks on the defense right now. Why are we near the bottom? And it is very much scheme related. There's no disguises of our coverage. It's very like, here it is. And then they make adjustments at the line, and then they we don't move. We just sit there. And so, like, a guy goes in motion, goes to the other side of the field. What happens? I'll just, move this guy here. And then our defenders will kind of like point and say, hey, you got to get him. But nobody's moving with the guy on the ball because it's not man, it's zone. So they're trying to yell across the field like, hey, that guy moved. We got to cover that guy now. It's not happening.
Yeah.
They don't disguise blitzes. They're very like, hey, here's the blitz and here it comes. And they're very predictable on what down they're going to blitz and down and distance. So there's always, the ability to have somebody in there. So I think a lot of those guys are getting kind of tired of this shit. And I think Jaire Alexander has been the most vocal about how bad it's been. And so
I absolutely love the dude. I love the dude. I really do.
There's a lot of Packer fans who really can't stand him right now and want him off the team.
But, F that.
They're morons. I mean, listen, every fan base has at least 60% of their fans that don't know shit about football.
Right.
And then another 20% that don't know a lot about football. And then there's, the 20% who are, heady and kind of understand things. But so he decided he was going to go out there for the coin toss because that's his hometown. It's his first time in his career that he's been back in his hometown.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually pretty customary with most teams. Hey, you're in your hometown. We're going to make you honorary captain today. Go take the coin toss. Or, hey, this is your old team. We're going to make you, honorary captain today. So go out for the coin toss. But LaFleur didn't do that.
Okay. So he didn't do that.
He didn't do that. So Jaire was just like, he just assumed like, well, I'm just going to go out there and be one of the captains. And so he did. And let me just say, this is another problem the NFL fucking has. First of all, we should get rid of the coin toss unless it's overtime.
Sure.
Home team gets the election at the beginning of the game. They already talk to the teams and they say, hey, if you win the coin toss today, what are you going to do? And LaFleur will say, oh, we're going to defer if we win the toss. Or, hey, we're going to elect to receive if we win the toss.
Sure, yep.
So if you can go and talk about that and do that, then why the fuck are we over here doing these coin tosses? Just say, hey, home team.
It's for show.
You get
all
first.
It is.
Yeah. So
it's like the goddamn national anthem in the
stupid.
beginning of every game on every freaking network.
It's on every sport does the national anthem. I don't have a problem with that. Not every fucking sport does a coin flip at the beginning of the game to decide who gets the ball. It's stupid. It's like your home team in baseball. Guess what? You bat last. You go on the field first.
Very valid point.
You do it in fucking football too. So my other problem is that they were like, oh, we could have lost a possession because he said we want to be on defense. And that technically means get the fuck out of here. We have enough technicalities in this fucking sport that make it nauseating to watch.
It's been painful. It's been painful to watch this year, not just for the sake of the
ball. He took 2 steps. He's taking his 3rd step. He's in the end zone, and the ball gets knocked out of his hand before his 3rd foot hits the ground. And we're like, oh, that's not complete. It's a fucking catch, man.
Yeah.
2 feet, you move forward, it's game over. And in the end zone, it should be dead anyways. If you go and you stretch the ball out and you cross the pylon, you cross the goal line with the football, it's a touchdown.
Right.
Even if you hit the ground and the ball goes flying out, it's already broke the plane, plays over, it's fucking touchdown. Why is it different for the catch? If you get in, you catch the ball, you maintain control, you take you're 2 feet down, that's a touchdown. Play should be over.
Absolutely, it should be.
But I watched Green Bay catch a ball in the end zone. He goes 1 foot, 2 foot, making a step with a 3rd foot. Guy comes behind and punches it out of his hand. And they're like, incomplete. And then they reviewed it and it's still incomplete.
I feel like that 3rd step thing is rather recent.
The 3rd step, when you're in play, should be because you have to make a football move because it could be a fumble because you're still in play.
Right.
But if you're in the end zone and you catch the ball, you've crossed the plane. Why does it have to be you got to take 3 steps or you got to make a football move? You don't have to make a football move. You're in the touchdown. What are you going to run up the fucking tunnel? Like, it makes no fucking sense.
Indeed.
Like, it's the dumbest fucking rule. So these are the kind of things that the NFL does to, murk the fucking, make the shit more murky than it has to be. And so when he says that we want to be on defense, of course he means what we want to defer because the rest are like, oh, do you mean defer? And he's like, yeah, sure. We don't want the ball. We want it the second half. Like, we want the defense out there. To say that, oh, we want the defense out there means you want to kick off and you want to kick off in the second half. No, it doesn't. Who would say that? So that's what Matt LaFleur is saying. Is like, you almost cost us a possession. And I 100% don't believe that that's the reason he got suspended.
No,
what I believe he got suspended for was his post-game comments. When somebody asked him about the coin toss thing, and he's just like, I'm from this area. I guess coach didn't know. He's just like, so then they said, well, you said this. And he's like, yeah, I didn't know what it meant. He's like, well, I didn't think there was a difference. And then they go, what do you think about the defensive effort today? And he's like, not good. And he's just like, do you think it was like the play call? Do you think, you guys were just not? He goes, I mean, we just run the plays that are called. That's all we can do. We run the plays that are called. It's the best we can. And that's it.
That's a valid answer.
And he kind of goes, it's a good game plan though, right? And then just I think that comment is what got him suspended. I don't think it had to do with him going out there and taking the coin toss. That's what they're using, and that's what they're saying. But these guys keep protecting Joe Barry at all fucking costs, and I don't understand why. He must have something on Matt LaFleur or the fucking GM of that team, because this guy has been a joke for the last 3 seasons.
Joe Barry's the DC, right?
Yeah. Oh, interception, touchdown. Cleveland just pick-sixed it. They turned it over on downs trying to go for a touchdown, and the Jets got it. And the second play from scrimmage, pick 6. Is now 19-7 Browns. So I don't understand how a guy who ran the 0-16 Lions defense, quite possibly the worst defense in history.
Yes.
How that guy got to be the defensive coordinator for a team that didn't really have a defensive coordinator problem. They had a personnel problem, but Mike Pettin was not a bad defensive coordinator.
No. He was
the defenses were middle of the pack. And now we're like bottom of the barrel. He had one good season. It was the COVID season.
Mm-hmm.
And you know why that was? Because guys can communicate across the field and nobody's going to not know.
Right.
Like, there's no crowd to be like, oh, I couldn't hear over the crowd. No.
Right. It was just us with that bullshit that bullshit pumped in crowd noise.
Yeah.
To simulate it. It was
but
hilarious.
this is where we're at as a team though. And with this guy as the coordinator, is that he had his press conference today and said, Yeah, I thought we played really well the first, 43 minutes of the game. And then that last 7 minutes, we didn't play as well. No, you didn't play very well because they already had 17 points and they're a team that averaged 14 points.
All right.
And then we gave up another, 14 points? Yeah, 14 points in that last 7 minutes. Could have been 17 if they had half a second more. Against one of the worst offenses in the league. Bryce Young had his best game as a quarterback last game against Green Bay's defense. The guy before him, Baker Mayfield, had his best game of the season against the Packers defense. Tommy DeVito had his best game of his career against the Packers.
And now he's sitting in
Justin
the bench
Herbert
in favor of Tyrod
had
Taylor.
one of his best games of the season against our defense.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can add Bryce Young to the list of guys who had career days against this defense.
So knowing this and knowing that, the Packers are still in it, but they're playing the 7-8, Minnesota Vikings,
who just made their fourth quarterback change.
They're playing them Sunday night, NBC.
Well, if he throws for 100 yards, it's still going to be a career game. So, I mean, the bar is low on the career game thing, but it's just how bad it's going to be. I just don't have a lot of faith. And I think that may be part of what LaFleur is hesitant to pull the trigger on letting them go right now during the season is because I don't think he thinks anyone on that defensive coaching staff could do any better. And that's a problem in itself.
Sure.
These are the guys you're hiring as a coach, and you are stuck with it. And this is what you're getting as a result. And you're not willing to do the hard thing about it. That doesn't make you a good coach. That's withstanding what he's done on the offensive side of the ball. The fact that he is taking a first-year quarterback who has all the pressure in the world on him because he is, taking the new seat where we had probably the league's best quarterback for over a decade, in that backfield. He's got a lot of pressure there, and then he's got to do it with all rookie and second-year wide receivers. A running back who is great, but he has been hurt a lot this season. You've got first and second-year tight ends, and really no one on that team to lean on because Bakhtiari went out after the first game. So there's not a lot of veteran leadership on that side of the ball. And yet, they have a top 10 offense right now.
Right.
Over the last 4 weeks, This is what is irritating, is that they've had the number 2 offense in the NFL for the last 4 weeks. They have the number 30 defense in the league in the last 4 weeks. So it's hurting, one side of the ball is hurting the overall team effort right now.
Sure.
And so where they're like, oh, well, you just win out, we should have won the last 2 games before this. Like before the Panthers game, we should have won those games. You should have beat New York. Like there's no excuse for losing in New York.
Yeah.
There was no excuse for that.
No, none.
And it was the defense that was on the other end of the thing, holding the bag and let Tommy DeVito just easily just toss the ball without any resistance down the field and get in the field goal range to win the game. Jordan Love has done everything he's supposed to do and more.
He's your guy, man.
He's a top tier quarterback right now, and he's not in, many people's top, 6-7 quarterbacks in the league right now, but he is like right on that edge.
321 of 514 all season, 30,587 yards, 27 tutties to 11 interceptions. I mean, there's 31 other teams that would take that too.
I mean, he's got better numbers than Pat Mahomes right now. He's got comparable numbers to Josh Allen. If you take the rushing, you just do with the passing part of it.
Sure. Yep.
He's got, better numbers than Jared Goff. He's got the same numbers as Matt Stafford. Like this is
his first full year as a starter
with
age 25 season
with rookies in his wideouts.
Like, I mean, it can only go up from here for him. it's that defense right now that's
holding
really
the team back.
really holding the team back. So I ask you this, not as a homer, but how comfortable are you with them beating Minnesota and then beating Chicago next week?
I'm not comfortable with it. Can they do it? Certainly. The offense has covered up some of these deficiencies for quite a bit. And what's kind of sucky is that the defense played against some poorer offenses earlier in the season and kept them in the game, but our offense just hadn't quite clicked yet.
Mm-hmm.
And we lost some games that we probably would have won had we played them now. So like if we played the Raiders now when we played them before, when the offense wasn't quite rolling, Love was still kind of trying to figure out, things and what to do. And Matt LaFleur was still kind of keeping the training wheels on, like not really trusting the offense to do their thing and calling safe plays a lot and not doing a lot because they were worried about like motion penalties and turnovers and guys being in the wrong place. If we had that ability to play that game again, or the Falcons game again, or the Giants game, the Giants game, they were playing better, but those two games right there and the Pittsburgh game, those games stick out because the defense played pretty well, but they were playing against poor offenses.
Yeah.
Atlanta's offense sucks. The Raiders offense with Jimmy Garoppolo sucked. The Pittsburgh Steelers offense with Matt Canada as their coordinator sucked. Like those were mirages and people thinking, hey, the defense is actually playing pretty good. They weren't. They were just playing really poor teams. So now, like, if you had that offense then and they were clicking like they were, they probably would have won those games. Mm-hmm. And I think Jordan Love has covered up a lot of deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball. And Green Bay would be in a lot better position had they had a defense that was, was feared, was, worried about, even mildly. Mm-hmm. They have talent on that side of the ball. They have 7 first rounders. Like, they have good players.
They do.
They're just not being put in a position to succeed. And that's the problem. And I think that's where Jaire went wrong. First of all, the team miscalculated his injury, how severe his shoulder injury was, because they didn't put him on injured reserve. So he just kept like practicing and saying, I can't go. Mm-hmm. And he even played this week with a brace, a harness on his shoulder. You could see it coming out of the bottom of his pads. He had the wrap and the Velcro strap.
So he wasn't 100% anyways. This might
wasn't 100%.
Yeah. All right.
And so he went out there and he gave it a go. Didn't play great, but he was also not in great position. Like Jaire likes to play man. He likes to lock up on those guys, and he likes to, get in a guy's face, get in his grill, start talking to him, irritate him. You can't really talk shit to a guy when you're 12 yards off of him.
Right. Yeah. No,
that's you can't jam him at the line if you're like 12 yards back and then going and like running backwards.
Right.
Like, but that's what it was called for. Sure. And so he's frustrated and he let it out. And I think that's why he got suspended. I don't think it's because of the coin toss.
All right. That's fair. And that makes a lot more sense. We're running close to time here. Want your quick thoughts on the LA Dodgers.
To quote Will Clark, fuck the Dodgers.
That's fair. That is fair.
They're ruining baseball.
Yeah.
Baseball's already had its problems. This was like the final nail in the coffin. I don't care how many rule changes you make to make it exciting. The one rule change that you have neglected to do out of greed is a salary cap.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You just basically said that, like, hey, LA, have fun. Fuck you to the rest of the markets. You bottom 15 teams, you'll never have a shot. And we don't care.
Yep. No.
We don't care that you have a team that has any following. We don't care that you have 75 people in the stands.
Yeah, I still stand firm that I don't care how much money the LA Dodgers are spending. They're going to get bounced out of the DS every year. That's what they do. That's what they do.
Yeah, but this is like an absurd amount of talent. Like this is a damn near all-star team.
Yeah.
I mean, you have now 3 league MVPs on that roster. Mm-hmm. And Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman.
Yeah.
Those 3 guys are MVPs. Ohtani could be Cy Young worthy if he stays healthy and didn't play for Anaheim.
Yeah. He's not
You've
pitching
got
this
this
year.
new
though.
guy.
At least you got
Yeah.
that. But you got the
You
new
got this
guy,
new
right?
guy.
I don't even know his name.
And he's supposed to Yamamoto.
Yamamoto,
He's supposed to be like one of the nastiest, pitchers to come out of Japan. You got him. You got Tyler Glass now. You added to your already stacked rotation. They already had May. They already had Urias. Like, they're loaded, and they're out there trying to get Cleveland's closer.
Jeez.
Cleveland's all-star closer. They're trying to add to the roster. There's no stop. There's no stop.
Yeah, there's
nothing
ridiculous.
to stop it. It's not even like the NBA. NBA doesn't have a hard cap, but they have that apron thing,
Right?
Where it's a heavy fucking penalty. Like, Boston was up against the apron, and if you go over that apron, like, your tax bill is like $170 million.
Jesus,
It's insane how much they'll charge you because it's supposed to be a hard penalty.
Right.
But this luxury tax that they put on these
the
guys,
luxury
it's a
tax
joke.
is bullshit. Luxury tax
It's a
is
joke.
bullshit, and it always will be bullshit. We'll save the rest of the baseball banter for next week because we are at time, my friends. And thanks for tuning in to the Listen In podcast. Hey, happy New Year, everybody! Enjoy
Fuck
it.
2023.
And sports, at least. 2023 has been awesome for me personally. I can't lie, and I'm looking forward to a great 2024, and hopefully with less accusatory slander from lesser individuals. That
means you fat tits.
Yeah, powder keg, fucking lunchbox. Anyways, Brandon, good day to you, sir.
Good to you.
So long, everybody. Good night now. Flava Flav, give me a yeah, boy, for 2023. Yeah, boy. And how about a I do be farting for the New York Jets?
Hey, just an update too.
Uh-oh.
Boston Celtics are now down by 1.
All right.
After trailing by 21. It's still the third quarter. They've come out and said, okay, enough fucking around.
Flava Flav, what do you got about that?
Yeah, boy!
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.